Good afternoon, everybody. How you doing today? Welcome back to another episode of Spec Talk. Today is going to be a very interesting episode, and while I'm pulling this all together, I'm going to start sharing my screen here so we can get everything going. Today's episode is called "Making the Leap from Word to SpecLink," and as you can imagine, being in this industry, we've all had to make leaps and upgrade our skills and whatnot. And from time to time, we hear of people who are struggling to make the leap into SpecLink, whether they're just a little too comfortable in Word or whatever other format that they're using. But upgrading from a word processor to a spec writing platform like SpecLink can feel like a big leap. And while it's not always comfortable, we always know it doesn't have to be a frustrating endeavor. In this episode, we will talk to our guest about breaking up with word processors, upgrading your technology, and finding a powerful and intuitive solution in SpecLink. We'll also chat about why making the leap is more rewarding and oftentimes easier than you might think. If you're still writing specs manually or copying, pasting, and reformatting until your hands cramp, this conversation is for you. Now,
Dory, I don't mean to, but can you expand the PowerPoint? It's showing the sort of non-presentation mode. Just wanted to let you know
oh,
that.
do I have my screens backwards? Goodness great. Come on, Dory. You're better than that. All right, let's try this again. I apologize, everybody. Let me stop sharing there and reshare. Share screen. Boy, feel free to give me a hard time in the comments, everybody. That's no problem. How about now, Alex?
Now we're cooking.
All right. So can
There.
I introduce us now? Okay, I know you stopped us at the best part. Your host as always today, me, Dory Azar. I'm a licensed architect and senior strategic sales specialist here at RIB SpecLink, along with the incomparable Alex Bear, who's a strategic sales manager here at RIB SpecLink as well. How's it going, Alex?
Very good, very good.
All right. Today we are going to be discussing a few things. Uh, four main points that we're hoping to cover today. One, common reasons people hesitate to switch from word processors. Two, what you wished you knew before making the leap from a word processor and into SpecLink. We're going to showcase key features to ease the transition and ease your worries, because I know it could be a stressful experience. And then, if you're not working alone, we're going to talk about how to approach the transition with your team or organization. Now, moving on, there are the key points that we're going to talk about. Today's guest, now, we might be having some technical difficulties with Corinne today. So, our scheduled guest today is Corinne Golding. And Corinne RSW is the founder of Corinne Golding Specifications Inc. and brings over 25 years of experience writing specs and projects across Canada and the United States. Her work spans healthcare, housing, institutional, cultural buildings, among other building types as well. A past president and fellow of Construction Specifications Canada, Corinne is also actively involved in CSC as well as a member of CSI and SKIP. Not only is she passionate about collaboration and mentorship, she also works towards raising the bar for construction documentation through teamwork and knowledge sharing. And she is also a member of the editorial advisory committee for Construction Canada magazine. So if there's any typos in my presentation today, I'm sure she will be quick to point those out. I do want to point out today that in the downloads, in the handouts section of the presentation today, you can find all the information you need to visit and relive past episodes, QR codes to scan, to access demos if you'd like, if you're not a current SpecLink user but want a demo. All that information is in the handouts tab of the um, presentation today. So we're going to stop sharing for a second and we're going to activate our first poll. So our first poll today is, how long have you been using SpecLink? So there's a few options that we've got here. We have, I haven't started yet. And if you haven't, we want to talk to you. Less than 6 months. I still think there's a lot you could take away from today. 6 months to 12 months is an option as well, and 12 plus months. So we have some longtime users here today. Look at this, Alex. Did you see these numbers showing up like this? That's
Oh,
almost an
wow.
even split. Look at that.
That is
That's really
yeah.
close
We
to
usually don't
interesting.
as yeah. That's good.
Okay, I'm just gonna. Oh, there's results are still coming in. Hold on. We have Alec, we have an excellent group. We have 19 people who have not started using SpecLink yet. And I just shared the results
Okay.
there. 81% of you voted. I will make note of the 19% who didn't vote and send you a very stern email. No, I'm just joking. That's okay. You don't have to participate in everything. So, how I'm going to close the poll there. How are we doing with our guest today? Are we still having tech issues?
We are,
We
unfortunately.
we
I
are
just
still having
messaged.
some. No problem. So we are going to give them a little bit more time to work that out. So the first thing I'm going to do, Alex, is I'm going to put all the pressure on. I'm going to take all the pressure off of me, and I'm going to put it right on you today, Alex. No big deal, right?
No big
But
deal.
in when somebody's considering making the leap from whatever they're in into SpecLink, I'm thinking
Uh-huh.
more word processor. So if they're in a word processor, and you had like, what would your elevator pitch be if you had like one or two or three commands to use to show somebody like, hey, you don't have to be afraid of SpecLink. Check out these cool features to really get them excited about SpecLink in a very short amount of time. What are your I know what my kind of go-to features are to share with
Uh-huh.
people. What are your like, okay, I've got these like two features that are really going to win you over. What are those for you?
Sure. Sure. Well, I always kind of slow things down a little bit because just my curious sort of nature. I always want to know kind of a little bit about what's going on for them in their world of specifications. So, right. So, I mean, if it's a group of, and that's the interesting piece of specs is sometimes it's divided by multiple people that are dividing and conquering it, different project managers, or you've got a dedicated spec writer, all just kinds of different situations. So I like to figure out who's writing the specs, kind of what their familiarity level is with writing specifications. And usually I will ask them kind of what are the biggest challenges. But what I will tell you is when, talking to most, kind of your average spec writer, it is a process that is required, not taught necessarily in school. It's just something that, it's a part of the requirement of a project. But it's usually something that's taking more time than somebody would like to do, with writing specifications. They've got deadlines. They don't maybe have the experience to bring together the specification, consistently, or at least, accurately and consistently. And it's something that it's hard to keep up to date. So most people, I would say, are, going to be most interested in the fact that SpecLink is going to be your friend. It's going to, help you, to both produce your specifications. So the spec linking inside of the system, it's going to be huge to help you, make your kind of high level selections. And then the linking helps to bring together a large majority of the specification. Okay, so you don't have to be a spec writer of 30 years to be able to produce a spec. So it just improves that confidence level. The other big piece is that specs are just constantly going out of date. So with SpecLink, another big feature is the continual updating to the specifications. And then last but not least, I'd probably say for a third one, it's really the ability to keep the specification kind of tightly put together. So, something that a spec writer, or really just an architect. Oh, perfect. Here comes Corinne. All right.
Whoa, look at
I'm gonna
this.
hang up on you,
Look,
Morgan. Bye.
we
All right.
Corrine is here.
Okay, I can't hear you. Hold on. Where's my
Okay.
volume?
We can see and hear you. Guys, this is this
Oh,
is this is live at its finest.
That's right.
can you guys hear me now?
We can. Can you hear us, Corrine?
Oh, thank God.
I
Oh,
told
yay.
you she's a real person. We're not imagining our guests.
This
Corrine, what
is
would
so
it be if not?
embarrassing.
No, no. This is the excitement. I'm gonna call it live television. It's not live television, but it's the excitement of live webinars.
Okay, well, this
That's
is
right.
really, really odd because my husband just passed me his laptop. And so
Okay.
that's what I'm now on. But my laptop is, pushed behind and I can see myself there too. So I apologize.
No, this is great.
Let's
This
get
is
going.
Well, are you ready to, do you need like a moment of just like deep breath in through the nose, out
And
through the mouth? You ready to go?
Sure.
This is fantastic. Corinne, I want to start by so thank you, Alex, for sort of sharing your insights on sort of the muscle of SpecLink and how it can benefit somebody that's just jumping into it. So, Corinne, real quick before I ask your first question, remind me how long you've been using SpecLink for?
I'm a pandemic baby, so just for about 5 years.
okay.
5 years. Okay, so let's go back about 5 years or 5.5 years, and that moment of when were you like, I don't want to use a word processor anymore? Like, what was that introduction to SpecLink? How were you introduced to it? And what was it that was happening in your career that was made you look for something new?
Okay, so I don't think it was an aha moment,
Okay.
no epiphany or anything like that. Um, I had become an independent spec writer in late 2016, so I was still using Word at that point. And when you're a sole proprietor, um, efficiency is important. It's my money. Time is money always, but in this case, time is my money. And so I wanted to be as efficient as possible. And and I don't like risk. So it was a little bit I was a little bit scared of doing it, but knowing that there were efficiencies to be had, I
Hmm.
think that was really key. Nobody likes making changes. And people change their minds, and yeah, this is in the project, and now it's not. Oh, now it's back in. And being able to make those kinds of changes easily, more efficiently was important to me.
I
I
feel
think that's
attacked as an architect when you say that things are in a project, then out, then in, then out. I'm trying not to take that personally, Corinne, but
get over
you know,
it.
I
Oh, I
Alex,
like
would you
green.
oh yeah, Corinne, yeah, we just a firecracker and a pistol all together. Alex, can you pull up SpecLink, and we're just gonna sort of
Sure.
start demoing some of the features while we're getting going. But Corinne, while we're waiting for Alex to do that, what is the kind of advice you'd have to somebody, like if you met a spec, and let's say an independent spec writer now, and they're like, you know what, I work alone, I don't have the space to learn something new, because that's really hard with the small practices, right? It's like, yeah, I know I should use this thing, but I can't carve out the time to learn this new software from scratch.
Yeah,
What's your sort of like mentoring advice there?
yeah. Well, I think one of the real benefits of a lot of the master spec programs that are out there, is the ability to do a trial run. And
Hmm.
I did a trial run using SpecLink Cloud and another product, and it was a no-brainer. After doing that, I mean, you don't buy a car without taking it for a test drive, right?
Right.
So I took SLC out for a test drive, really liked what I learned within even that short period. Um, and you start to recognize that there are efficiencies.
Hmm.
Why spend my time formatting documents, doing those kind of word type tasks when so much is built into a product? I think I can add a whole lot more value to a project for my clients by being a specifier, not a word processor, right? So yeah, if you don't need a lot of time to take it for a trial run, to see where there are efficiencies. Like any software that we use, most of us only use about 20% of the features. So I'm still learning,
Right. Okay.
but it was pretty easy to see early on that there were some real benefits, even though I didn't even know many of them at that point.
Right. Okay. So let's dive into that. I would love to know some of those. Like, what are a couple of the features that you would share with somebody if they're well versed in Word or a word processor, and they wanted to jump over to SpecLink, and you had the opportunity to show them a couple of cool features that would really win them over? What what couple of features would you do? And maybe Alex can demonstrate those while you're telling us what those are.
Okay, so when I prepare a fee proposal, the first thing I do is I make my project in SpecLink Cloud, and then I develop that table of contents by choosing the sections, right?
Hmm.
Um, so I mean, that alone gives me the ability to, jump right in, when I am successful getting that project. So, I mean, you're building your table of contents. One of the sections that I use an example is hollow metal doors and frames. It has a
Hmm.
checklist at the beginning. So I know,
Yes.
okay, do I have fire rated doors? Do I have exterior doors? Do I have interior doors? So I like the checklists
Yeah, and Alex is
because
going to show us that checklist right there.
perfect.
right at the beginning of hollow metal doors and frames. How fast is
Yeah.
Alex getting us there? Look at that.
So Alex might
So
be even faster than me.
no. I was
Oh,
just trying to keep
are we gonna
up.
have a
So
contest? Let's have a contest.
no.
But
So you were
but this is
uh,
great because you can populate your section so quickly, right? And then that efficiency when the architect says, "Oh, you know what? Uh, we're not going to use any insulated hollow metal doors." So click of a button, it's gone, right? And all the
Mhm.
related content.
That I think that is one of the things. So spoiler, but if I had to pick two or three features, it's that SpecLink helps think with you. It's almost like having like a sidecar with you. Like, I need a hollow metal door, and it's just going to say, "Oh, okay. Well, if you need that, you're probably going to need these things too." It's like if you give a mouse a cookie. Like I find that if anybody knows that story, but it's everything is kind of connected to one another. So I always
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I picture it as like if it's a junior spec writer, it's really like an assistant, like helping you think things through. But if you're an experienced or a seasoned spec writer, it's just helping you plow through your specs so much faster.
Yeah.
time is
The other
money. So
thing, sorry, Alex?
no, time is money, like you said. I mean, whether you're a sole proprietor or
Yeah,
whomever. So
absolutely.
yeah,
So
yeah.
again, as a sole proprietor or as an independent spec consultant, I have many different clients who may have different requirements for the look of the final document. And wasn't that long ago, a spec writer here in Calgary said to me, "Oh, I wish I could change the formatting." And it was like, "Oh, you can. You know, um, it, and I think early on that was one of the things that I didn't realize, you know, how to do it, and talk to somebody else that was using SpecLink Cloud here, and that too is one of the features that I really like. If you're working in an architectural firm, you may have your standard, and that's just the way it is, and you always pump out your documents with that format,
Mhm.
unless you've got a client that has specific requirements. But that's another thing. I don't know if you can demonstrate that, Alex, how
Sure.
easy it is to change the format or to develop a template for each client, perhaps.
Absolutely, yeah. So, you've got, and everything will print out to PDF or to Word. You can include your track changes as well. But we all know of these, owners that have, or, your architect or, whoever that's kind of controlling these sort of cosmetic parts of the specification. And they may have something really, really particular. So, yeah, you can take in SpecLink. We've got different templates like the CSI or AIA, CSC for Canada, block formats. So different things sort of out of the box. But you got, again, maybe a client that does, let's say, the AIA, but let's say they bold the first few, couple lines of indentation, and they use some really, they use Gothic or some kind of, auxiliary, you know, uh, format for their, the fonts for their specification. So you can just create a template right here, and it will sort of give you that preview inside of the system. You can change your spacing, your orientations, your font sizes, all those good things, and you just save it. I'm just gonna, in honor of our guest today, and I'm sorry if I misspelled your name. Hopefully that's close to accurate, but you can just save that as a template, and it will go ahead and add that to your database. So anytime that you have work with, let's say, Corinne, you just come right to that template after all these copies. Let's see. And you can just choose that. So that'll be kind of archived in your database,
Mhm.
and it's always available. So yeah, anytime you work with Corinne, and sorry for using you in the example of the, but yeah, and then we'll just take that and we'll, it'll write it right in, and yeah, you could go.
And by comparison, let's just pause for a moment and say, okay, so Korean, let's say you're using a word processor and we have to change the font and formatting for an entire project. What Alex just did in 12 seconds would take
Oh, it
How
would
long?
take me
What?
a long, long time because I was never really proficient in Word. When I worked for architectural firms, we had staff that, I mean, the people who were writing the reports and, doing those kinds of things, they were the experts, right? And it was like, oh yeah, it's just as easy as changing this style and whatever. But
Mhm.
gosh, I've tried to do that. And, you change one thing and you think, okay, good. Okay, that's changing everything. And it's like, oh, hold on a second. All of a sudden it, indented something that I didn't expect.
Yeah.
I don't want to spend my time formatting documents, right? Like
Oh,
that's not value added.
no, not at all. We've got our good friend Eric Ledbetter who says in all caps, many hours to make those changes in a word processor. But we do have a question here, and this I'm going to ask Alex this question. Holland's asking, can you export or share formatting styles with other people?
Hmm. That one. Now, if you and Corinne, maybe you'd be able to double back me on this, but if you have SpecLink, if you share, so there's a sharing capability within SpecLink, you can take your project file, your Office master, you can share it with that colleague. That of course will also need to have SpecLink. But if you share that project file with them, then yeah, that would have the formatting baked in. Um, So if it's a collaboration based project, that would work. If it's somebody that is just sending you sort of a template, maybe it's like an owner or somebody that just says, "Hey, this is sort of the format that we use. We use SpecLink." They can also, instead of sharing something, they can send it to you. So then that instead of being a shared space, it'll be sort of just in your database. But yeah, it would have the sort of the pre-built, template, structure, spacing, font style, all those good things.
All right.
So
Now,
for that question, sorry, Dory, I'm just kind of wondering if is that when you've got, say, other subconsultants on the team and you want to send out a template to say, hey, this is what we're using. Can you say export it to Word if they're still using Word, export a section to Word, send it to them, and then that formatting would be something that they can follow that way too, I suppose.
It's true, yeah, and you can do the sort of show formatting in Word, and they can use that as a sample spec for their
yeah,
template.
that's
Yeah, absolutely.
Steve just
Okay.
chimed in with that same thing, saying I usually just send my consultants a sample section in Word that I export. There's another question that's come through here. When we're talking about our preferred features in SpecLink that we would use to sort of convince people what a great platform it is, I got to default to headers and footers. Can you give us a quick run through on just how fast and how sweeping those header and footer changes are?
It's magic.
if 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 there was any sorcery to SpecLink, it's that. Um, that's great. Um,
I think it's the word auto-magically is what you should use,
Ooh.
right?
um, we've got just before we dive into that, Alex, Diana and I have been chatting on the side here, and the comment we've got here is one of the features I value is the speed at which you can create new projects using a master, especially when working on similar projects. It's incredibly convenient to pull sections from the master and easily update the headers and footers. So I wanted that to be the segue into updating our headers and footers here. Thank you, Diana, for sharing that comment with us. And I see there's like there's just been a surge of comments coming through here, so I will get to them as quick and confidently as I can. But Alex is going to show us some header and footer features now.
Oh, well, sorry. Okay, I can back up to that. I'd kind of touched on that and then moved on, and I was moving on to the speed of sort of creating
Oh no,
a copy.
I think, and I know if Eric Ledbetter's still listening, he I think has like a spreadsheet on how he can convince people just on headers and footers alone. So I would love to spend a little bit of time on that, Alex, if you don't mind, and just
The,
showing what the features are there, how we plug in global terms, even if you've got to
Absolutely.
bring in a company logo. I love that it manages images as well. So if you are on this call, if you are one of the over 100, oh, we're almost at 130 people here right now. And if you've been in jail of having to update headers and footers in a word processor, let's just make your life real easy right now in about 10 seconds.
Absolutely. So yeah, you've got a kind of a kiosk here that you can set up your headers and footers. You can set them up. You can create it for an individual header footer for a particular section. I don't really know what the use case there is, but I'm sure there is one on occasion. But mainly this is going to be, yeah, global dissemination through you set it up one time and it's going to just go through the whole thing and make it uh, magic, as Corinne says. So basically right here, you've got the ability, you can either type in your headers and footers, but you really what's going to be made really amazing here is we have these both keywords and global terms. So I can come in here and I can choose things like, you know, the division ID or the section ID or the project name or the section ID with the page number. You can do a combo of different kind of key terms, global terms. Those are keywords. The global terms are going to be more things like the architect. So you can, and I'll kind of back into the global terms and show that too in just a moment. But we have different global terms where you can kind of, you know, spell out who is the architect or who is the owner, the actual name or the actual project location. Okay, and then it's going to apply that. So you can add these different keywords and global terms. I chose the wrong one there. Let's see, owner, actual name. Okay, and then what it's going to do is it's going to automatically from the database extrapolate that, you know, correct information and then apply it into your headers and footers. You also do have the ability, as Dory's mentioned, you can insert images, you can put your logo, whatever the sort of unique situation may be. You can modify the tables. Of course, you can modify the justifications, the font styles, all those good things. So it's going to be a really quick place that we can sort of modify that. We can modify our page setup as well. So everything is going to be done globally here. And then let's just show you the global terms. So over here, again, we have different terms that are sort of intelligently tagged inside of the database. So you've got, like, for instance, the owner's actual name. It just starts off as something like XYZ Corporation or just owner. Okay, but if we're going to be working with Google, we've got a really cool tech project we're working on for one of their campuses. Okay, just come in here and change that. And then it's going to disseminate that wording, owner, to Google through the whole specification book. So that's got a lot of real power in the sort of manipulation of the documents on a large, from the technical sections and the front end sections. Okay, but now that I've done that, let's just come over here to print preview. Let's take a look at our headers and footers. Okay, so you can see I haven't actually selected anything on spec, so there's no content here, but you can see I've got the text that I've added typed in manually. I've got the section number, I've got the page number, and you can see here down below, it's going to automatically put Google in there. I've got the section number with the page number combo, and the in this case the firm who's producing or in charge or owns these specifications.
Yeah, and that's really what we want to illustrate here, right? Is that sweeping, that big sort of broad strokes. I want to get back to a question for Corinne here. And again, so let's say somebody's made the decision, say, you know what, this looks fantastic. We're going to jump into SpecLink and we're going to use this. Now, what is the process? Because SpecLink comes with content, right? Comes with a lot of content. Spec writers, as I understand, like things done a certain way. So what was your process in aligning your preferred content with SpecLink, and how you sort of, like, did you bring in your content fresh? Did you use SpecLink's content and modify it? What was your runway to sort of getting going?
Okay, so I worked for architectural firms in-house as a spec writer for over probably 20 years.
Wow.
When I went out on my own, you can't take what you used at an architectural firm. It's their property, right? You just can't. That's wrong. So I had to basically start from scratch. So, I've subscribed to the Canadian Master content through SpecLink Cloud. Um, you know, I did have, project PDFs of project manuals from old projects. So if there was content that I really needed, sometimes I had to rebuild it. But for the most part, I start with the Canadian Master content. And, it's easy to bring in content from Word. Um, there, yeah, it's tough when you're starting on your own.
Mhm.
So I didn't bring anything along with me, but I do know spec writers that have taken, well, working in a firm, they've made the choice to go from a Word based master spec system, and
Mhm.
they've taken the time and the effort, or they've hired someone to put it into SpecLink Cloud. So it's very doable.
Okay. What are some of the features that you weren't aware of when you got into SpecLink, but now you kind of look at them? Like, I know a question just came in about master notes. There's the headers and footers that you said, or I'm sorry, not headers, the formatting that you had mentioned earlier that you weren't aware of. What other sort of like sneaky features were there that really you couldn't live without now?
Well, what I really like is when I'm putting comments into the spec, whether for my own benefit to remind myself to go back, or as a collaboration tool, asking, my client to, answer some questions. I really like the ability to generate that comments log and export it
Mhm.
to Excel. It's great to take, as a list of outstanding issues that we need to deal with, whether to a meeting or
Mhm.
whatever. I really like that feature. I don't know, Alex, if you want to show how easy that is, if you've got sections that
Sure.
have comments in there.
Sure. So I've got an Office Master that's sort of built out. It's got a lot of different sections activated, comments activated. And just for those that are maybe not as familiar, a comment, you have the ability to kind of hover over a paragraph. You can add a comment. You can assign a comment to a particular person. Maybe it's a question about, how do we address a certain piece of the specs or what have you. And then basically those are going to be open within the system for that person to review and get back. Now, there's a couple ways, as Kareem mentions, you can kind of high level the comments. So when you do go into your review meetings, you understand exactly what that kind of punch list is of the things to review. And you've got abilities you can both sort for on the table of contents by sections that do have active comments. But what's even really better than that is what Corinne mentions, is that there's a reporting capability. So I can come into my reporting menu here and I can run a comment report. So that comment report, and I can choose to include who the author of comment, as well as the paragraph text, things like that. If the whole project, a specific division or section, I'll just do the whole project. But yeah, it's going to give us a 10,000 foot view of literally every single area in the specification that somebody's come in, whether a reviewer or an editor, and they've said, you know what, we need to double check this. I need to, gain consensus with, Sally Joan or Bobby Sue and whoever that may be, and it gives you that comprehensive list as this is sort of kind of running in the background of every single comment, where it's at, what who's it assigned to, that kind of a thing. So
Yeah,
it's like
I
a
like
slew.
that.
Yeah. Corinne, are you using that for, because I know people use it as a collaboration tool, but also as a personal checklist. Do you use it kind of for both
Absolutely.
purposes? Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
definitely.
So
Yeah.
excellent.
Yeah, one other thing that I really like, I've been using the notes feature to add a link to the products that I specify, so that it's easy for me to, find that product data again when I want to check something, if I'm comparing
Mhm.
products. If I've listed three, I'll put a link to each of those products in the note feature.
Yeah. Alex,
Okay.
could you show, yeah, maybe just show what the note feature is for those who don't know?
Sure, absolutely. So we have different notes that are kind of cataloged on the left-hand side of the specification. They're in these little orange icons, and they're going to give different context-specific notes on, what are the details of this reference standard, or what would really want to think about when you're talking about the types of classifications for water absorption. Or we have different links to, the different types of thermal resistance here. And then for the manufacturers, these are pretty neat. They have different links to the websites and sometimes detailed information. So yeah, you can use your own pairing notes. So you can come in here to create your own notes. So maybe I like insul foam, and I prefer this. So, I can say used on, project before, like Corinne says, and then you've got that
Mm.
ability to sort of catalog your own um, note here that you can also assign at that particular paragraph. Let's see, insul foam. I think it was for Atlas. Oh, here we go. 117. So I'll just assign that, and then it's going to put a blue user note right next to
Mhm.
this paragraph 117 as well. So I've got both the master note that kind of talks about the details of these products, and then I can see
Mhm.
here for myself, oh, I've used this on products before. So it gives you that sort of, muscle memory, or, I
Yeah.
think, Dory, you have
I
a good word. I can't remember it at the moment, but it's, yeah. Stored
I
in that
I
state.
maybe you're I'm not sure which word we're referring to. I have a lot of words for a lot of things.
That's true.
um, there's so but what we're illustrating here is how everything, let's say it's in-house. So you don't really have to leave SpecLink to get that information, to find where you use that product last. Your interface is everything you need, right? So look at on the left-hand side. I mean, it's really small on my screen, but there's all the information relative to that product and the website link if you needed some additional things. But I do have a question that came in from Tanya about the commenting feature that I would like to see, because I don't know the answer to this. So I'm hoping you guys do. Is there a way? So when you, Alex, if you go over and click on the plus sign to activate a comment.
Yep, but
Uh,
before I do, it's mental RAM. It's a reduction of mental RAM, right?
yes.
Leaving those
Yeah,
units behind so you don't have to remember every single little aspect of your spec. Okay, so let's go
exactly.
ahead.
So
So let's go ahead
yeah,
and
so when you click on the plus sign there, and I don't know if
okay.
this is a question. See how it defaults to draft? It's a
Yeah.
draft comment. Is there a way to change that by default to be open or anything else, as far as you know?
Not that I'm aware of,
Yeah,
but
not that I'm aware of either. Corinne, do you have? Um,
I usually leave it as a draft and then it goes to resolved. Like
oh,
I
okay.
sup- for me, I'm working with, a client, and once they answer the question, it's resolved. I
Oh,
leave it
okay.
as draft otherwise, typically, but
Oh, look at you saving clicks. That's good. So yeah, so it doesn't really have to be open, an
no,
open comment.
in fact, I'm not even really sure what I would consider the difference between draft and
right.
open for review, unless there were specific people, maybe with, like, if I were working with a team within my office, say I had other people that were collaborating on the spec or adding content, maybe then it would be for review, but maybe other users have better answers than me.
Yeah, there could be
Well,
different use cases there, and it's a good point. I mean, draft maybe it's good for like office masters, right? Where it's not really something you ever want to close out. It's like you want to have it there. You're right there. I think there's different use cases there, and it's not, one size fits all kind of a deal.
we got another comment here from Eric who says, I use in review for clients as a status, but open is for him, back to him for edits. So that's an interesting way of organizing that. Um, excuse me, just reading some of you guys, the comments are flying in today and I'm absolutely loving it. Let's see, let's pick on Corinne a little bit more here. Let me see what questions I can stump the spec writer with. No, just kidding. We're not here to stump you, Corinne. So let's talk about another big time saver in SpecLink versus a word processor. So we've talked about the formatting, we've talked about headers and footers. Um, I know, excuse me, I know one of the big ones for me is the output. Uh, Being able to PDF, you know, 50 sections, 100 sections, whatever you need with a click. Are there any other sort of like really big, heavy features like that are ended up being huge time savers for you?
Well, the table of contents, I think, is one.
Mhm.
that you can generate that very, very quickly. Headers and footers, that is, I think, probably the biggest one. When you get the client who says, oh yeah, this is what I want in the header. And then they say, oh, the date's going to change, or, the issued for whatever, that changes it. And, they're all apologetic and I'm sorry to do this last minute. And, I click, make a couple changes, click a button, reprint, and send it to them. And they're like, how did you do that? And then, like, part of me says I don't want to let them know that I have this
Oh,
magically,
Corinne, why did you charge me for 2 hours when you got back to me in 10 minutes?
minutes. No, I don't know. The generating reports is great. Like
Yeah,
I
the
said,
reports is
that Excel spreadsheet. Other surprises?
do you ever
Oh,
use sheet specs, Corinne?
I don't.
Okay,
I don't
okay,
use
because
those. Yeah.
that's an interesting. I've had some interesting conversations with people around the output. Like I said, you can PDF the whole document at once, but even some conversations with people who, there's a certain project size where, maybe it's going on the drawings, maybe it's not, and you don't have to make that decision until like the last second. So yeah, Alex is just showing us the print menu's pretty robust. Tons of options there. Um, Alex, while you're doing that, the question came in from Donna, and hi Donna, I haven't talked to you for a while, but nice to see you here. The question is there a way that we can highlight text in SpecLink to draw attention for somebody who's reviewing it? Is there like a highlight feature or a way we can sort of track changes, maybe kind of do something like that? How would you, or would you, is it just the fact that we've put the comment on that line is all maybe that we would rely on here?
right. So they want to distinguish things for review.
Yeah. So let's
Doesn't matter.
say there was something, maybe a specific wording or something that they wanted reviewed.
I gotcha.
Is there a way to highlight it, or would we just be a little more, provide a better explanation in the comment section or the
Yeah, I mean,
comment?
well, the only option really you can bold and you can italicize. So just no
But
colors.
that would print bolded, right? So it's
It
not,
would. So
okay.
it's kind of a
Um,
tricky.
Okay. No problem. No problem. Let's keep going here because there's a question that came in for Corinne from Philip. Philip wants to know, Corinne, do you ever use the outline and short form spec views? Because I think those are huge features as well. For those that don't know, what you're looking at right now is the full content in SpecLink in this particular section if you were writing a full spec. But in the event you were doing an outline or short form spec, is there a feature that helps us shorten the spec to outline or short form? I'm asking
Sounds like
questions I know
a
the
fan
answer
question.
to, but
Absolutely. For me, I typically like to get involved in a project when design development has been done, all the icky value engineering has happened, and we're ready to start with CDs. But there are some projects where I get in earlier, and it's you're in schematic design or you're in design development, and someone says, "Oh, we need an outline spec." That's the perfect opportunity to click that button, get rid of the content that isn't necessarily important at that point in the project, and deal with the specifics of, probably just the products. Then, the pricing happens, and we move on further onto the project. I can click that button. Now it becomes a full spec, and I can continue editing, and I don't lose any time between DD and CD. So
mhm.
it's a great
Yeah,
feature.
that's one of the things that I really highlight when I'm talking to people about SpecLink as well is nothing nothing is eliminated. It's hidden, it disappears, it kind of hides in a corner somewhere until it's ready. So for example, even the normal view versus active view, for anybody who's not familiar with the SpecLink interface, you'll see some of the text is black and some of it's gray. The gray text just means it hasn't been opted in yet or opted for. You're not including it in your spec. So if you've kind of gone through your section and said, yes, we need this, we need this, we need this, and then all of that gray stuff you don't need anymore, there's a button that will hide all that so you can just focus on what it is you really need. And Alex, if you want to narrate what you're doing there, might be better than me here.
Oh yeah, I'm just following along and showing as you talk.
But the button up at the top there, it's active view. It'll either say active view or normal view. So active view will just include everything that you've got selected, and normal view will have everything that's available to you in that section as well. Um, yeah, that's another way of just managing large quantities of information. If you don't need it, just click and hide it, and um, move on with focusing with the important information. Let's get to a couple more questions here. Active view is like a print preview. Yeah, Steve, exactly. That's exactly what's going on there. Greg is saying our civil engineers cannot live without sheet specs. Um, Fortunately, yeah, I won't read the whole thing here. I didn't get a chance to pre-read it, so sometimes I don't. Not everything is suitable for air, but I'm sure that's fine. Here's a question from Derek. What is the difference between print PDF and export PDF, Alex?
So let's see, that's a good question. Export is going to give you the option of PDF or Word. I think print is just going to do to PDF. So a little bit duplicative there on that feature, but yeah, that is the only difference.
Okay.
Export gives you the option of Word as well.
Gotcha. Corinne, I want to tap your brain now as a mentor. Okay, so let's say you've got some junior spec writers or some people that are at the point of their career where they're trying to pick a path and pick a direction. How would you talk to somebody who's either looking into getting spec writing, or looking at what's the hype speech you would give someone to get into SpecLink? Like how do you? I know you're an excellent mentor. How do you talk to young people about adopting new softwares, about getting into spec writing? How do you nurture people that, because once you show an interest in specs, you're going to get absorbed into that community, right? So how do you nurture that?
Yeah, you definitely, if you raise your hand and you say I'm interested in writing specs, people will
Yep.
jump on you because you're a little bit of a rare breed, right? Um,
Exactly.
I mean, I was fortunate in my career that many years ago, um, someone recognized in me that I had that attention to detail, and I really liked kind of the technical aspect of it. I started off, drafting way back when,
Mhm.
and we were talking about this. That I learned AutoCAD on a monochrome 286. So I go way back, and way back where the people that I worked with had paper copies and actually redlined, and the cut and paste was real. They cut out of a piece of paper and taped it on, and it went to the typing pool, and came back for review. Um, Getting into spec writing now, I mean, when I'm in schools and talking about, where do you imagine yourself, in 5 years, in 10 years, did you ever think about, becoming a spec writer, or, some of the other, careers that you can get involved in? And, the light does go on with some people, and it's like, wow, you make spec writing sound fun. It's like, well, it is, because if you have a love of learning, the industry is changing all the time. There's always something to learn. Um, and it's hard to keep up. And so, having tools that help you be as efficient as possible gives you that little bit of extra time, maybe that you need to keep learning about, advancements in technology and different products and everything.
Mhm.
Um, Gosh,
So
because
the way
I can go, yeah, go ahead.
No, because it's in talking. So I was at the AIA conference last week and talking to a lot of people about the industry, and young people getting into um let's call it the AEC industry, right? And the misconceptions around it, and like, in order to be a good architect or a good engineer, like, you don't there's a lot of stereotypes that I think are associated with it. So in my world, one of the things was, oh, if you're an architect, if you want to be an architect, you have to be crazy creative and really like brilliant at math. And it's like, I know architects that are spec writers that could care less about what the actual design of the build. Like, you just tell me what kind of brick you want on it, and I'll make it happen. But so it's not this. thing that you have to fit within. There's room in the industry for every skill set, for if you're interested in construction but not design, but you don't want to be on a job site, like there's a place for you. But if you're interested in it and want to be on a job site, there's a place for you. And if you like that, like there's so many ways that young people can fit into the architecture, engineering, spec writing, construction industry. So yeah, that's kind of how sometimes and I'm in this mindset. I'm speaking to a high school class on Monday about an education in architecture. So I'm kind of in this headspace right now of talking to young people about it. But yeah, I'll just tell them to call you, Corinne, if they need an internship. No, I'm just joking. I
Yeah,
wouldn't do
sure,
that to you.
sure. So
Yeah,
there,
you have 60 kids by.
there are lots of opportunities, and like I said, if you're willing to keep learning, it's a great place to be. And also, there's a lot of opportunity for advancement, and we're actually very well respected in the industry, and
Mhm.
and that's a good feeling. We're appreciated.
Well, you're unicorns, right? It's a it's a rare breed of person. Daniel's got a question here that I'd like for you to address, and it says, Corinne, what advice would you give a new architect starting on their own, writing their first spec from scratch? Are there resources out there to pull from? My colleague doesn't know where to start, and I only do proto work where the spec is provided by the client. So here we have a situation, a new architect, a young architect ready to write their first spec. What do they do?
Hire a spec consultant.
For the first one? But
Well,
this is an architect that wants to get it. Maybe
yeah,
it is a collaboration for the first one or
yeah.
two to get, or 10.
It's a thought. I mean, you know, the specification and the drawings are complementary. And I've worked with a lot of architects who spend as much time reviewing the specification as they do the drawings because they are, it's a package deal, right?
Hmm.
So, I mean, SpecLink Cloud is a wonderful tool, um, but you have to understand how to use the tool, and how spec writing comes with a lot of experience, you know. Um, I I would be hesitant to just tell someone who's just going out on their own that they can write a spec, by pulling guide specs or master specs from product manufacturers and thinking that they can change the headers and spit something out. I think that's very
Right.
dangerous. Um,
Yeah, there's
I'm
just
working
too much
with,
room for contradicting information when you're just
absolutely.
pulling things together from all directions like that.
Yeah, from division 0, 0, and 0, 1, and tying it into the rest of the technical specs. Um,
Yeah.
you know, I'm working with an architect right now who had been working for a firm, has just gone out on his own. And he was my first call. Or I was
Right,
his
right,
first
right.
call. Maureen, I've worked with you in the past. I'm now on my own. Can we work together?
Mhm.
So
And independent spec writers wouldn't exist if there wasn't that need, right? And it's a
Right.
huge community of independent spec writers that exist out there.
yeah.
Interesting. Let's grab another. Let's do one more poll here while we go. I got two poll here. Let's use this one here. I'd be curious to know if you're using, this is for the current SpecLink users, of course. What did you use for specs before SpecLink? Were you using a word processor? Spreadsheets is an option. Were you just doing your specs on drawings? I know that's a popular thing for architects that are doing developer work or more simple projects, or the loyals, the hardcores, right? I've only ever used SpecLink. So no middle two, no spreadsheets, no draft. Okay, so here, let's end that and share the results. So we got a heavy volume of people that were using word processors prior to that. We are running low on time. Susan's asking for contact info for Corinne. We have a closing slide for that. Don't you worry, Susan. We're gonna make sure you got a way to get a hold of Corinne if you'd like. Eric is saying hire a spec consultant that will write on their system with the collaboration feature so they can learn and retain those tools. Excellent, Eric.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Um,
Great idea.
always always providing good advice. And Eric's going to be a guest on SpecTalk later this year as well. So looking forward to that. Another question for Corinne. I am a landscape architect and I love writing specs, another unicorn, particularly because they have saved me so many times in the field during construction. I've had a lot of exposure to a wide variety of spec sections over my 38-year career. Do you think I can be taken seriously as a spec writing consultant, or would that be a hard sell to architects and engineers? I think 38 years experience is as a landscape architect is huge, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I guess my question would be, what are you going to use as your master spec? Is it
Yeah.
content that you've developed, or are you looking to use something like SpecLink Cloud, where you've got a really great starting point, and because of the experience you have, you can add content that is valuable.
Yeah, and depending on which subscription package you have for SpecLink, it does. There is a landscape. There are landscape sections included as well. So let's. I think we're going to stop the questions there because I do want to have enough time to land this plane properly. We are going to challenge Dory again with the screen sharing portion of the event. Oh man, I don't know why. How are we doing here? Can we see? Are we good?
Yep, we're good.
All right. I'm just going to jump through. If you wanted to get a hold of Corinne, contact information is on the screen. There's an email address there as well as her website. And I know there's all kinds of excellent information on the website about the experience and the kind of projects that she offers. And just her general awesomeness. I mean, Corinne, you're such a treat to have on. Always a pleasure to chat with. Even in the time we spend leading up to this, kind of prepping for today, you're just a treat to be around, and always an excellent person to have a conversation with. Really appreciate your time joining us today. Even though it's still in the morning for you, we put you on the spot nice and early, a couple hours behind us here.
Yeah, 10 o'clock's not early.
Well, to some people, I could introduce you to some people who think 10 o'clock is early. And something that I'm really excited about, guys, is our next episode is our 1-year anniversary special for SpecTalk. I don't know how we've been doing this for a year already, but Alex, it's what a ride it's been. And we're going to be welcoming Amy Baker as our special guest in 2 weeks from today. And Amy's topic is going to be about unique ways people might be using SpecLink. So it's designed to do one thing, but Amy's got some really creative ways that she's using SpecLink to support other parts of her business and other approaches to creating sections and just producing specifications. I've seen her talk about these things. They're absolutely brilliant. And we'll be celebrating our 1-year anniversary. So I don't know, Alex, do we need like some party hats or some maybe rent some tuxedos, maybe something like that? I don't know. What are you thinking? Well, we'll brainstorm that another time. But
I think maybe
again,
live from Miami.
Okay, a cruise ship. I'll be on a boat somewhere. Maybe I'll do that. Corinne, again, thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you for weathering the tech issues at the beginning.
Thank you guys for weathering the tech issues that I was having.
No problem.
If I could just say one thing.
Sure.
I think that what was a big surprise for me when I started using SpecLink Cloud was the fact that I wasn't too old to learn something new.
Okay.
Good to know.
Yeah. See this gray hair?
Listen, we've all got it here. Come on. That's a really interesting thing because I know today was about getting into SpecLink, and I know my brain automatically goes to young, well, you're starting something out, so you must be young, but I mean, it's easy enough to adopt at any stage in your career, regardless of hair color, right? Regardless of all the things, right? We're all capable, right? Is what you're saying. With a little bit of effort, life could get easier.
And not
you
just
never want to stop
capable,
learning.
Yeah. I mean, the support from other spec writers who are using it is invaluable, and the support from SpecLink Cloud from RIB. The videos are great. The updating is on a regular basis. It's a great system, great product, absolutely great support.
Thank you, Corinne. I appreciate that. And again, for anybody else looking for Corinne's contact info, if you just Google her name and put specifications after it, you'll find her. She's very easy to find out there. So again, Alex, as always, a pleasure to share the screen with you, and thank you for being the brains behind the demos today. Corinne, just a treat and a privilege to have you guys on. We're all open to connect on LinkedIn. If anybody wants to reach out and stay in touch, we're all up for that. And otherwise, we will see you guys in 2 weeks for our special 1-year anniversary. I don't know, maybe a tuxedo, maybe black tie, bow tie. I don't know. What do you guys think? Send me an email. Let me know what you want me to wear for the anniversary special, and we will consider all entries. Love you guys. We will see you in a couple of weeks. Thank you again, and we'll talk soon.
Bye.
See ya.